Hello everyone, my name is Tommy with Boys and Girls Clubs of St. Lucie County. Welcome to our virtual club. Today we're going to be reading Chapter 2 of Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. I would like to introduce our guest artist for today, Anne-Marie. She's going to be illustrating behind me while I read the chapter. If you missed Chapter 1, please make sure you go back and listen to that video and also download your very own original coloring sheet that Anne-Marie has created, original illustration. Chapter 2, Wilbur. Fern loved Wilbur more than anything. She loved to stroke him, to feed him, to put him to bed. Every morning, as soon as she got up, she warmed his milk, tied his bib on, and held the bottle for him. Every afternoon, when the school bus stopped in front of her house, she jumped out and ran to the kitchen to fix another bottle for him. She fed him again at supper time, and again just before going to bed. Mrs. Arabelle gave him a feeding around noontime each day, when Fern was away in school. Wilbur loved his milk, and he was never happier than when Fern was warming up his bottle. He would stand and gaze with adoring eyes. For the first few days of his life, Wilbur was allowed to live in a box near the stove in the kitchen. Then, when Miss Arabelle complained, he was moved to a bigger box in the woodshed. At 2 weeks of age, he was moved outdoors. It was apple blossom time, and the days were getting warmer. Mr. Arabelle fixed a small yard specifically for Wilbur under an apple tree and gave him a large wooden box full of straw and a doorway cut in it so he could walk in and out as he pleased. "Won't he be cold at night?" said Fern. "No," said Father. "You watch and see what he does." Carrying a bottle of milk, Fern sat down under the apple tree inside the yard. Wilbur ran to her, and she held the bottle for him while he drank. When he had finished the last drop, he grunted, and walked sleepily into the box. Fern peered through the door. Wilbur was poking around straw with his nose. In the short time, he had dug a tunnel of straw. He crawled into the tunnel and disappeared from sight, completely covered in straw. Fern was enchanted. It relieved her mind to know that her baby would sleep covered up and stay warm. Every morning after breakfast, Wilbur walked out to the road, and Fern waited with her till the bus came. She would wave goodbye to him, and he would stand and watch the bus until it vanished around the turn. While Fern was in school, Wilbur was shut up inside the yard. But as soon as she got home in the afternoon, she would take him out, and he would follow her around the place. If she went into the house, Wilbur went into the house. If she went upstairs, Wilbur would wait at the bottom step until she came down again. If she took her doll for a walk in the doll carriage, Wilbur followed along. Sometimes on these journeys, Wilbur would get tired, and Fern would pick him up and put him in the carriage alongside the doll. The carriage is a baby stroller. He liked this. And if he was very tired, he would close his eyes and go to sleep under the doll's blanket. He looked cute with his eyes closed because his lashes were long. The doll would close her eyes too, and Fern would wheel the carriage very slowly and smoothly so as not to wake her infant. One warm afternoon, Fern and Avery put on bathing suits and went down to the brook for a swim. Wilbur tagged along at Fern's heels. When she waded into the brook, Wilbur waded in with her. He found the water quite cold, too cold for his liking. So while the children swam and played and splashed in the water with each other, Wilbur amused himself in the mud along the edge of the brook, where it was warm and moist and delightful, sticky and oozy. Every day was a very happy day, and every night was peaceful. Wilbur was what the farmers call a spring pig, which simply means he was born in the springtime. And when he was 5 weeks old, Mr. Arabelle said he was now big enough to sell, and he would have to be sold. Fern broke down and wept, but her father was firm about it. Wilbur's appetite had increased. He was beginning to eat scraps of food in addition to milk. Mr. Arabelle was not willing to provide for him any longer. He had already sold Wilbur's 10 brothers and sisters. "He's got to go, Fern," he said. "You will have your fun raising a baby pig, but Wilbur is not a baby any longer, and he has to be sold." "Call up the Zuckermans," suggested Mrs. Arabelle to Fern. "Your Uncle Homer sometimes raises pigs, and if Wilbur goes there to live, You can walk down the road and visit him as often as you like." "How much money should I ask for him?" Fern wanted to know. "Well," said her father, "he's a runt. Tell your Uncle Homer you've got a pig you'll sell to him for $6 and see what he says." It was all arranged. Fern phoned and got her Aunt Edith, and her Aunt Edith hollered for Uncle Homer. And Uncle Homer came in from the barn and talked to Fern. When he had heard the price was only $6, he said he would buy that pig. Next day, Wilbur was taken from his home under the apple tree and went to live in a manure pile in the cellar of Zuckerman's barn. The end of chapter 2. Chapter 3 is called Escape. As you can see behind me, a beautiful original illustration is all finished by Anne Marie, and we're going to share that so that you can do your very own coloring page and also keep track of how many chapters you read. And if you miss a chapter, make sure you go back and listen. We want you to make sure you have good comprehension and understand everything that's happening in the story. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.